That's Based with Caleb Salvatore is a comedic informative production, meaning it covers serious topics in a humorous manner. Some of the opinions expressed are satirical hyperbole, some are not. Some of the content may not be suitable for all listeners. If you're easily offended, tune out now. We don't want pussy bleeding little bitches consuming our content. I have dementia and pooped my pants while visiting the Pope.
Welcome to this Wednesday's midweek check-in episode of That's Based. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We are laughing our way through the end of days, and we're brought to you by our friends over at Outlaw Streamers. Also, big shout out to our sponsors over at Beach House Bar and Grill in Omaha, Nebraska, just north of 103rd and 4th Street. Beach House Bar and Grill in Omaha, Nebraska. Remember, they got karaoke every Monday. Karaoke every Monday. They've got trivia or poker on Tuesdays, trivia on Wednesdays, and then music bingo and open mic on Thursdays. Open mic following music bingo right after the show, or right after the bingo. What else? Oh, yeah, March 9th. They've also got my show, the Roast Battles, the Roast Tournament, the Salty 16, the event we do once per year that sells out, standing room only every time. March 9th, Saturday, 9 p.m., Beach House Bar and Grill in Omaha, Nebraska. Go get your tickets online on eTix or $10 cash at the door. It's totally up to you. Again, that's Saturday, March 9th. You don't want to miss it. We're like a week and a half away. I promise you, this is our event of the year. This is always, if you're going to go to one, this is the one you want to go to. It's always fun. I have fun on stage. The audience has a ton of fun. We're going to see if Brianna Calhorn can repeat. She'll be back. She won it last year. Can she do back-to-back Patrick Mahomes style? We got a trophy. There's only one trophy. We don't do participation trophies, mainly because there's 16 of them, and I can't afford to buy 16 trophies. But also, we don't do any of that woke liberal California bullshit either. Again, Salty 16, March 9th, Saturday, 9 p.m., Beach House Bar and Grill, our official sponsors right here on That's Based in Omaha, Nebraska, just north of 103rd and 4th Street. They've also got a kitchen, so come hungry. And it's good food. It's not shitty bar food. It's good food. I promise you'll like it. Unless you're a vegan, then we don't care about you. So your tastes are not our concern. Your dietary choices, we'll put it that way. We got a big show to get into this week. Before we do that, though, I just want to give a shout. I knew it was going to be a good week when I woke up Monday morning. And I got the news. That Jacob Rothschild, banker, financer, philanthropist, and the guy who's played a major role in the destabilization of the United States and many other countries, got his. He kicked the bucket at 87 years old. 87's young. I know what you're thinking. That's young for a U.S. politician. How did he die? He wasn't a politician, but if he was, we would be sitting here going, how did he die so young? He had at least 2 or 3 more runs for office in him at the ripe age of 87. It's tragic, but rest in hell, you piece of shit. Okay, we got a lot to get into this week. Okay, so we had the solar flare, quote-unquote solar flare, that took out AT&T. Tucker Carlson's in some trouble. We had the Michigan and South Carolina primaries. NATO. You know what? We're going to save NATO for Saturday. We've got migrant debit cards going out in New York City. The Chicago Board of Education did something interesting. Florida doing something interesting. Tom Brady, some new revelations about his collapsed marriage, I guess his former marriage, you could say. And we'll talk. It's going to be real. Let's start with Tom Brady. No. Let's start with the solar flare. We'll start with the solar flare. So there was last week you had a quote unquote solar flare knock the power out, or not knock the cell towers out. For AT&T users in major cities. Now, a lot of people were skeptical that it was a solar flare. I have a friend who works in IT. I texted him about it, and he said solar flare is what we say when we can't figure out what's wrong with it, and we just don't want to do our jobs. So take that as you will. Nobody believed it was a solar flare. You know how I know it's not a solar flare? You know how I know it's not a solar flare? Because if it were a solar flare, it wouldn't pick one network. Last time I checked, the sun doesn't discriminate against AT&T customers. No, it'd take everybody out. Yeah, the solar flare just decided it was going to bring down just AT&T customers in Dallas, Kansas City, Phoenix, LA, New York, and Miami. That was it. Just very specific spots of the United States. It didn't take out Verizon. It didn't take out the internet. It didn't take out a bunch of power. Nothing. It didn't take out the power. Just the cell towers for one specific company. Oh, and a pharmacy. And a major pharmacy line also got hit. Come on. You guys aren't that stupid, right? Like, we've talked about cyber attacks and black swan events. You should know what they are when you see one at this point. I feel we've educated you guys enough. I don't think you guys are that dumb, but I think the general population might be buying this. This would be the first solar flare in history that was like, I'm going to take out two very specific companies and two very specific industries. Everyone else I'll leave untouched. Everybody else we're not even going to bother with. Now remember, we've had a lot of stuff coming out about cyber attacks lately. You had the CIA, the former CIA spook, goes on MSNBC right before the new year and says we're going to see a black swan event in 2024. Doesn't know what it'll be, but they're seeing one coming. The World Economic Forum was talking a lot about cyber attacks at their Davos summit. Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI director, warned that Chinese hackers had basically already infiltrated all of our digital infrastructure, and all they got to do is hit the button. All of that comes out, and then boom, AT&T goes down. It was a dry run. It was a dry run. Now, was it China? Was it our own? It could be. You could convince me either way. I could see the Chinese doing this. Absolutely, I could. I could see the Chinese wanting to do a dry run on one company. Because here's what'll happen. There's a lot of people, and we'll have Nick Kohler on the show next week. He's going to talk about, on next Wednesday, he's going to talk about a lot of the stuff going on in Russia and China, because he follows foreign policy pretty closely. What you'll see with China is a lot of people think they're going to move on Taiwan this year. At some point this year, to throw the U.S. into a frenzy. For a couple of reasons. We're already obviously very occupied in these little countries called Ukraine and Israel, number one. Number two, we're going into an election year. And they would much rather deal with Joe Biden than they would Donald Trump. And they know that a wartime president rarely loses his re-election efforts. So that's why they'll make a move on Taiwan. But if China makes a move on Taiwan and all those hackers hit the magic button and everything goes down, it'll be chaos here. We won't even know what hit us. All our communications will be down. Even if we wanted to do something about Taiwan, we couldn't do anything because it'd be pure chaos here. I mean, you guys, seriously, you see how stupid people get on Black Friday over an Xbox or a pair of tennis shoes or a TV or whatever. They kill each other. What are they going to do when the food runs out? What are they going to do when the pharmacies shut down and they can't get their life-saving medicine? You think it's bad on... Oh, my God. You thought the summer of 2020 was bad. Good Lord. You people had the internet during COVID. You had streaming services. You could press a button and food would show up at your door. You wouldn't be able to do none of that. No, you're talking pure chaos, no power for God knows how many days, no 911 emergency services, no traffic lights, nothing. You're martial fucking law while we probably go to war with one of the three superpowers in the world. That's what that would lead to. So it would make a lot of sense for China to do it. It would also make a lot of sense for our own government or powers operating within our own government to do it, such as the CIA, the intelligence agencies. I told you, love or hate Donald Trump, he's anti-establishment. Joe Biden is the establishment puppet. They got their fists so far up his ass, he might as well be a porn star. Joe Biden is the establishment puppet. The establishment is so desperate to hold on to power. And when these polls keep coming out showing him getting dog-walked in all the swing states, the desperate people do desperate and stupid things. That's all I'll tell you. Is desperate people are going to do some crazy shit and take some drastic measures. Mind you, These intelligence agencies that secretly control this country, Donald Trump was the first person to challenge their power structure since JFK, and we all know what happened to JFK. Now, there's way too many cameras, way too much publicity right now, in my opinion, to do precisely what they did to JFK right now. But they get desperate. Who knows? So I could very well see them doing something drastic, like a fake cyber attack, and you can kill two birds with one stone that way. You can delay the election and say, hey, we can't do this election thing, man. Look at this. You know, the grid just went down. And number two, you can use that as an excuse to go to war with China or Iran or Russia or insert country we're at a pseudo war with here. There's a lot of stuff they could do there. I don't know who I'm 50-50. It could be China or Russia or Iran or one of those countries, or it could be our own government. Isn't that shitty that it's even a possibility that our own government could be doing these things to us? But this is where we are. They hate you. They hate your family. They hate your existence. They hate the salt of the earth, middle America types that just want to be left the hell alone and raise their families in peace. They hate you with every fiber of their being because they can't control you. And that's where we are. So I do not be surprised if these goons do something like pretend, like fake a cyber attack. And it wouldn't even have to be a global, a national cyber attack. They wouldn't have to take everything down. But let's say there happens to be a Chinese cyber attack on some of the more conservative precincts in states like Michigan and Arizona and Georgia and Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Let's say the conservative precincts get hit with the cyber attack on election day. All of them. Just so happens. They target those sorry, polls are closed. You should have got a mail-in ballot. What were you thinking? Should have got a mail-in ballot so we could throw it away. Let's say they do that. No, that wouldn't be rigging the election in the sense of stuffing the ballot, but that would be rigging the election, and you'd get the entire mainstream media out in lockstep on the exact same page saying, oh, it was a cyber attack by the Chinese. They targeted these districts to spark chaos and sow division amongst us. This is the facts. This is the science, trademark. This is how it is. If you doubt that, you're a far-right Nazi conspiracy theorist. That's all you are. See how easy that would be for them to do? You hit a couple precincts in Maricopa County, more conservative parts of Detroit, small towns in Georgia, so people can't even get in to vote. And yeah, you're right. You didn't stuff the ballot, but you still cheated. But it doesn't matter because you'll have everyone in the establishment on your side to come out and back you and label anyone else as crazy, and the average American will fall for it. That's how easy it could be. That's how easy it would be for them to rig this thing. That's how election fraud happens. It doesn't happen in the form of them stuffing ballots. So no, I do not believe this was a solar flare. I think this was a dry run. It's an election year, man, and we're in February. And we've already had quite possibly the biggest outage, wide-scale outage for cell phone service in the history of this country. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy year. It's going to be a bumpy year, and I'm telling you right now, like I said, desperate people do desperate things when their backs are against the wall. You ever get like a raccoon or something in your garage and you corner it and you're trying to get it out? That thing thinks it's about to die. It will tear your fucking face off if it means it could get out of that garage alive. They're the raccoon in the garage right now. The establishment is. If those poll numbers don't start looking better for Biden, and I don't see any indication they would, inflation's starting to creep back up. The stock market's going to crash any minute now. Ukraine's losing the war, objectively losing the war. The border's falling apart, and they seem to have no solution because they refuse to enforce the actual laws on the book. It's a disaster right now. Crime's going back up. Everything's bad. Those poll numbers are going to continue to dip. And when the establishment realizes that it's losing power, it's going to do something drastic. And if they're going to continue to slowly escalate. And when those measures don't work, they're going to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And the last one is nuclear fucking war. I'm telling you, buckle up. Have a plan. This is going to be a weird year. We got 8 months and some change. 8 months. And the establishment has never felt more in danger than they are right now. Their power structure has never been more in question than it is right now. More than 2016, by far. Because, yeah, Trump won. They're like, okay, we can write this off. We'll beat him in 2020. It's no big deal. Going from Trump to someone who's as establishment as Biden just pulled the wool back on everybody. Bird Box is over, right? Everyone sees the establishment for what it is now, that they're actively destroying this country on purpose. And now they know there's no going back, and they realize that. And remember, these people see you as subhuman filth. There's no limit of what they'll do to you if it means holding on to power. So do not underestimate your opponent. Do not say the country's a disaster, the president's a dementia-ridden moron that doesn't even know what year it is, doesn't know when his son died, none of that. Don't underestimate them. They will do some drastic shit, including killing you and your family, if it means they can hold on to power. And we got 8 more months of this shit, and they're going to slowly continue to escalate it. So just beware. All right, next up, we've got Tom Brady. Poor Tom. I'm a Patriots fan, right? Poor Tom Brady. We found out that Tom Brady is coming to terms, as this New York Post article said, Tom Brady is coming to terms, allegedly, reportedly, with the fact that his wife's romantic relationship with the man who is now her boyfriend and was at one point her jiu-jitsu coach began years ago before they were divorced. Now, the average guy, we don't talk celebrity gossip on here. That's not what I'm here to talk about. The average guy sees that and goes, that's Tom Brady. That's the GOAT. The greatest quarterback of all time. Good-looking guy. 7 Super Bowl rings? Has a net worth of, let's see here, $450 million. Married this woman. Popped a couple kids out of her. And even he got cheated on. So the average guy takes that into account and goes, if there's no hope for Tom Brady, if Tom Brady can get got, there's no hope for me. Here's what you don't realize. Giselle was a rental car, for lack of a better... No, there are better terms, but I like that term. Giselle was a rental car before her and Tom Brady got married. She was blown out. And yes, she's a successful supermodel, but let's not mistake it. She wouldn't be nearly as big as she is if she didn't marry the greatest professional athlete of all time. I stand by it. Sorry, Gretzky and Jordan. Tom Brady getting cheated on by Giselle isn't proof that you don't stand a chance with women. Tom Brady getting cheated on by Giselle is proof that you don't stand a chance with hoes. None of you do. None of you. Tom Brady made the mistake. Here, see, I sided with women 3 times on Unsolicited Advice on Monday. Great episode. Go check it out if you haven't yet. Tom Brady made the mistake of thinking he could turn a hoe to a housewife. And a lot of guys make that mistake. We've all made that mistake at one point or another. And we all get burned by it. Not all women are hoes. Of course they're not. I'm married. Of course they're not all hoes. Not even most of them. But you don't realize. What's the saying? You can take the kid out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the kid. It's very similar with hoes. You'll never take that inner compulsion they have away. There's just something in the back of their mind that compels them to do that. It's a possession. We've talked in the show about how this country's demonically possessed. That's a symptom of it. So Tom Brady Tried to turn a hoe to a housewife. It didn't work. It didn't work. Plenty of great women out there. Ain't no great hoes. Stop dating hoes. Stop dating hoes. Stop marrying them. Stop having children with them. Stop acknowledging the fact that they even exist. Just stop. That's how you fix it. I see way too many guys tearing themselves to pieces over these women that they've had God knows how many guys and aren't going to think about them the second they turn their back, the second they walk away. Stop tearing yourselves up over hoes. Stop. You'll ask me, Caleb, how do you cite a hoe? There's ways. There's ways. Unfortunately, this country isn't civilized enough to the point. We're not a proper country. We can't brand them. We can't do that. We can't give them special tattoos. You know, maybe like the Planned Parenthood logo on their hand would work. We can't do that. But there are signs. There are signs. You can look at their social media. What kind of pictures do they have on their social media? Wholesome pictures or attention-seeking ones? There's a red flag. There are plenty of signs. Is she a single mom? Is she past the age of 30 and has never been married? And sometimes those two go hand in hand. Does she frequent EDM festivals? Probably a hoe. Does she have tattoos across her chest, on her neck, or on her hands? And God, I don't even need to mention the face. Nor do I need to mention strippers, OnlyFans, anything like that. What about jobs? There's a lot of jobs that are indicators. They're not all the women in these industries are hoes, but enough of them are that you should just steer clear of it. Nurses, nursing assistants, call center employees, hairstylists, preschool teachers, bartenders, any job that predominantly hires men and she's not a lesbian, all hoes. This is my life experience. I am sharing with you single guys that listen to this show. Heed my warning. Even the greatest quarterback of all time, with the face of a supermodel and a net worth of $450 million, couldn't tame the wild hoe. Neither can you. Neither can you. We've all tried to do it. We've all tried to do it. We've all been there. I got out. You see that? I got out. I got away. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. I don't want, women are not the enemy. I don't want people listening to this to think this is some like incel rant and I want you to hate women, because I don't. There's plenty of good women out there. You guys just aren't pursuing them because they actually take effort to get. The hoes don't take a lot of effort to get. And that's why you keep getting burned. It's the dating version of taking Ozempic instead of eating healthy and going to the gym. Yeah, you'll get thin fast, but you're probably going to have a heart attack and all kinds of weird kinds of cancer in about 15 to 20 years. Yeah, you'll get laid now. She might date you for a little bit now. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to better yourself, get a good career path going, get into shape. That's fine. But she's probably going to cheat on you in 6 months. Stop entertaining the hoes. Ignore them and they will go away. All right, next up, we have, speaking of hoes, Nikki Haley got her ass handed to her. Got her ass handed to her in the South Carolina primary. South Carolina had their primary the other day. Let me pull the results up real quick here so I can give you the up-to-date results. With 99% reporting, Donald Trump took 59.8% of the vote. Nikki Haley took 39.5%. Now, the Democrats also had their primary. Joe Biden took 96.2%. And the Democrats are sounding the alarm for Trump. They're making this seem like some type of victory. That, Biden got 96% of the vote. Trump only got 60. He couldn't even break 60, 59.8. Well, I think context is important. And I know the left, they don't like context unless we're playing that, video montage of Joe Biden using the N-word. But context is important here. Donald Trump is not the incumbent president. Joe Biden is. Donald Trump is facing an open primary. He's running in South Carolina against the former governor of South Carolina. Mind you, Nikki Haley as governor of South Carolina. Oop, we pulled up Todd there. My bad. Nikki Haley as governor of South Carolina. That's what happens when Mia's not on the show. Won the election. Won the primary in the election by 27% in 2010. She won her election with 51% of the vote and then 55% of the vote 4 years later. It's safe to say that this woman was at some point at least a little popular there. So Trump is running against the former governor of South Carolina in South Carolina, and he won 60% of the vote. Joe Biden was running against Oprah's psychic. So maybe a little bit of context is important before you flip the board upside down and start parading around like you just won. Maybe don't spike the football quite yet, especially when we look at these Michigan results that came in Tuesday night, tonight, when we're recording this. The Michigan results, Donald Trump, which, by the way, Michigan is, South Carolina's red. If South Carolina goes blue, there's a whole, it's over. South Carolina's not going blue this year. Let's look at Michigan. Michigan, which is a far more important state in terms of winning the general presidential election, at least, had, this is with 30% reporting, so I'm sure this will change and it might be a little bit closer. But here's the count right now. 67% to Trump, 27.9 to Nikki Haley, 2.7 to uncommitted. That's about 10,000 votes. Right? Let's take a look at the Democrats. Right now, Biden's got 79.9%. Sure, that's solid, right? But uncommitted has nearly 15. Nearly 15% of the vote in the Democratic Party of the people voting for their primary in the state of Michigan said, I'm good. I don't like Biden. And they're protesting over the Palestine thing, which I told you was going to bite them in the ass. The people storming the Capitol buildings and protesting outside the White House and lighting themselves on fire, which we'll talk about on Saturday. Those aren't Republicans. That's his base that largely helped him get reelected, and he has turned his back on. That's where you're going to start to see trouble. So you've got 15% of Democrats said, we're good. That's 35,000 votes as 35,000 Democrats, or 36,000 as of 27. So there's 27% of the Democratic precincts reporting. Nearly 36,000 Democrats said, we're good. We're not voting for anyone. I abstain. Joe Biden won by about 155,000, won the state of Michigan in 2020. You multiply that by, let's see, we're almost a third of the way through. So multiply 36 by 3. That's not quite it, but you've also got to consider how many independents are going to say, we've lived under this dementia-ridden moron for too long, we're done. I'm telling you right now, if 15% of Democrats decide to stay home or vote third party, it's over. In Michigan, he's not winning Michigan, he's not winning the presidency. It's done. He'll lose. He'll get dog walked. It won't even be close. I mean, you're talking Trump's going to win states like New Mexico and Colorado, or at least come close to it. It'll be a blowout of epic proportions. And I'm telling you, which goes back to the original topic we started the show with, the more of this shit we see, the more of this stuff with 15% of Democrats say, I think we're good, we'll pass. We don't like the guy that we have in office right now. The more and more likely it looks that we're going to see a black swan event, the more and more likely they are to try something desperate to cling on to their power. Something desperate like this. There's a video gone viral. I'm not going to play it for you, but there's a video gone. You can go look it up. It's on Twitter, X, Google, wherever you find your news, YouTube. There's a video of the president of NATO. Went viral over the week, or over the last week. Said that it's not a matter of if Ukraine's going to join NATO. It's a matter of when. It's a matter of when. Which Russia has made clear from the get-go. By the way, that was a treaty we signed with them in the 90s that said Ukraine would never be, bordering countries would never join NATO. That we're going back on now. Russia's made it clear that from the since before any of this started, that's our line in the sand. You put Ukraine in NATO, we're going to war with NATO up to and including nuclear weapons. Now they know that, and I understand war is complicated and there's a lot of gray area involved. But why would they do that? Why would the establishment purposely try to push us into a hot war with a nuclear superpower unless they know that they need to do something drastic to cling on to power? Because this is bigger than Donald Trump. This is a grassroots movement of people that have woken up to this bullshit. People like you that listen to this show that have woken up to this bullshit. And the establishment knows it, and you know it. That this is their last stand. They're going to try to flex their arm. That's what, like I said, the raccoon in the garage. They try to look as ferocious as possible when their backs are up against the wall. That's what every bully does. In their last moments, they flex their arm as much as they can to look as strong as they possibly can. To scare a last-ditch effort, Hail Mary attempt to scare off anybody that might challenge their power structure. That's what they're doing. That's why they're doing so much crazy and drastic shit, because they know their days are numbered and they've got to make something happen quickly. They're desperate. The reason they're doing these shows of force, the reason they're having standoffs with states like Texas, they're sending the department, just outright sending the Department of Justice after their political opponents. The reason they're colluding with in the open, colluding with tech companies now, not even Twitter file shit, just demanding that Spotify censor people like Joe Rogan. The reason they're doing this, that they're flexing their arm to the degree they are, like you had in Canada, where Trudeau just went full dictator over COVID. The reason they're doing this is because they know that there's cracks in the foundation. They know it's coming to an end. And this is where they're at. Next up, when we talk about controlled demolition, the Chicago Board of Education voted last week. Chicago Board of Education, they got together and they said, you know, how do we make our schools safer? Metal detectors, maybe armed guards. I don't know. How can we make our schools safer? You know, there's a lot of problems with violence in schools, not just from mass shootings, but gangs, fights, you name it. So how do we make our schools safer? And they came to the conclusion unanimously that the best way to make our schools safer would be to remove all school resource officers and all Chicago police officers from all schools, all public schools in the city of Chicago. The change will take effect in August at the start of the 2024 to 2025 school year. So if you're planning on committing a crime in a school, maybe wait about 6 months. Not that we would encourage that, but that's the message they're sending to the criminals. So tell me. Okay, so remember, these are the people that tell you mass shootings are so bad, school shootings are such an ongoing epidemic in this country, that it justifies rewriting the Constitution and taking away people's rights to bear arms, right? That's what they're telling you, that school shootings are that bad. If that's the case, why would you remove police officers from the school? Obviously, so if they're not bad enough to have a police officer in every school, which, I mean, school shooting, if you're at these resource officers, that's about 0.0001% of them will ever have to deal with anything like that. And the ones that do, more often than not, it's a gang thing and not a, psycho kid shooting the school up. But nonetheless, if it's not enough of a problem to warrant having police officers in schools, which you've had for 100 years, could one also make the argument that it's also not enough of a problem to take away my right to bear arms? Could we make that argument here? I think that's a sound argument. I think it's logically consistent. Far be it from the left to be logically consistent about anything. These people are communist morons. I think that's a good argument, though. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Am I weird? Let me know in the comments on YouTube and Rumble. I don't know. I think that makes sense, though. I don't know. What a weird, crazy. That's how we make our school. Are they going to replace them with social workers? Unanimously. Not one person on the Chicago Board of Education went, this is a little too far. This is a little too far. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't go this far. So here's what it says. A new holistic plan. I love when they use the word holistic. Anytime somebody uses the word holistic, it's a stupid person trying to act smart. A smart, stupid person, right? We used to have that segment on this show. Now they're too long to run it. Maybe we'll bring it back on the midweek check-ins. I don't know. A new holistic plan for school safety that addresses root causes and contributing factors for disparities in student discipline will replace the SRO program. Great. So the holistic plan that addresses root causes and contributing factors for disparities in discipline, let's see how that handles the active shooter. Let's see how that handles a fight between two kids and one of them pulls a knife or a taser or a gun. In addition to cutting police officers, they also voted to sever ties with Aramark, the janitorial company that was providing cleaning services to the district. Instead, it'll work with 7 other vendors to provide custodial services, some of which have already worked in Chicago school. This is irrelevant. So this is what you do to stay safe, is remove the police. What's hilarious is when you go into these areas that are affected by, that are high crime areas, and you ask them, hey, do you think we should defund the police? People look at you like you're batshit fucking crazy. At least the older people do. They look at you like you're nuts. They're like, no, we need more police here. What you idiots don't realize about the police, you defund the police idiots, what you don't realize, and I'm far from a bootlicker. I'm more than happy to call out cops when they fuck up. I have no problem doing that. What you idiots don't realize is the problem with police isn't the concept of police itself. We need to have people to track down and arrest rapists and murderers and human traffickers and people that are slinging fentanyl to kids. And we need people to come in and stop active shooters and terrorists and track down bank robbers and people that hit, liquor store. We need people to do those jobs. We can't just get rid of them. The issue with police comes from de-escalation, and I hate to comes with the de-escalation, and I hate to break it to you, but if you want cops to get better at de-escalation, we all agree, anyone who's not an idiot, agrees that you can't just get rid of police. So if you want cops to be better at de-escalation, then that's going to require more training. And more training is going to require, you guessed it, more funding. So you guys that are sitting there screaming, defund the police, because you think that they're not good at de-escalation, should actually be saying, fund the police even more. That should be your big stand. Hey, we need more money for the police so they can hire more officers and they're not working 15-hour shifts and getting hyped up on caffeine and drugs. And let's be real, when you go without sleep, you're more irritable. It's proven you're more irritable. You make less rational choices. I mean, a couple sleepless nights and you're technically not even good to drive. You're less aware than somebody who's over the BAC limit for a DUI. So more police officers to cover more shifts, let people spend more time with their family, get more rest and sleep, work on their mental health, more money for training in de-escalation and other tactics, non-lethal tactics, all of that. You're going to need a lot more money to overhaul what you want. And you may say, well, cut funding here, and it's easy from the outside looking in to say that. The fact is, just about every major metropolitan area in this country, the police budget is spread so thin, you have no idea. I mean, it looked thinner than an anorexic bitch. Stupidity. Bumper stickers are all the left has. Bumpers, that they talk in a series of bumper stickers. They've never formed an original thought a day in their lives. They're incapable of independent thoughts. Tucker Carlson is facing a potential arrest for violations of the U.S. sanctions on Russia over his interview with Vladimir Putin a couple weeks ago. We talked about it on the show. Now, the sanctions are financial. There's no, I mean, you can technically go to Russia. The sanctions are financial. So if Putin paid him, maybe you could make the argument. If he paid Putin, you could make the argument. He interviewed him. He's a journalist. The last time I checked, we still have this thing called freedom of the press in this country. You may not like who he interviewed, but I'm sorry. We're spending how many billions of dollars on this war? Don't you think it's right that we at least hear the other side of it before we invest any more? Wouldn't that be a good idea? You know, if my wife called me and said, I found this screaming deal on this car. It's $50,000. I'm going to buy it right now. I would say, pump the brakes, no pun intended. I want to come see the car. I'm not saying you can't buy the car, but we're spending half $100,000 on this car. I want to come down and see it first. I just want to see it before I commit this much of my money to it. Same thing here. The Biden administration continues to abuse the Justice Department to go after their political opponents, to target, harass, and terrorize their political opponents. This won't hold up in court. No chance. It's the First Amendment, freedom of the press. You can interview whoever you want. It's not a sanctions violation. It's insane. If that's a sanction, I mean, what isn't then? Where do we draw the line? Slippery slope, right? They'll lose horrendously in court. It'll be a humiliating defeat for this administration if they try to take this there. Hands down, no questions asked. My question is, how many times do these guys have to lose in court? How many times do these guys how many times does the Supreme Court have to step in and say, no, Biden administration, you violated the Constitution you swore an oath to uphold? Until we can just kick them out of office. Shouldn't that be a law? Hey, if you continue to violate the Constitution, you're done. Bye. You violated your oath. Get the fuck out of here. We, the court, are removing you. We're bypassing the impeachment and the bye-bye. He just waived another couple $2 billion in student loans the other day. You know what he said? Look, you can look it up. He's on video saying this. He says, the Supreme Court told me I couldn't do it, but I did it anyway. Bye! Get out of office! He's acting as a dictator. That's blatantly violated the entire core principles of this country. Get the fuck out of office. I don't care where. Go to the old folks' home, visiting angels, wherever you got to go. I don't give a shit, but you're done. Get out. That's treason. You have betrayed the Constitution that you swore an oath to uphold. Get the fuck out. How do we just sit by? How is there no clause in place that says, hey, if they continue to violate the Supreme Court, violate the Constitution, and then ignore the justices that told them they violated it, they're done. And that's not just president. That can be governors, senators, congressmen, you name it. You're done. Get out. That includes Gavin Newsom with his gun control bullshit. Supreme Court issues the Bruin ruling. You release your Bruin reaction bill and basically just make all guns in your state illegal. They say, no, you can't do this. They send it back to the state. It's rejected, struck down. And you change like a semicolon to a colon and call it good and try to reissue the whole thing, put a stay on it so that way you can get your law in place while it goes through the legal process all over again, and you just rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over again until we get sick of it, run out of money, and give up, because you're a state with unlimited money, and these are grassroots organizations that can only exist off donor money, right? And the money they win from you in lawsuits. So you're gone too. Bye. We warned you. Get the fuck out of office. You're going. How about that? How about you go to jail too? How about we make that? You go to jail as well. You don't just leave office. You go to jail. And if the law in question was a law that would send somebody else to jail, like a gun law, you go to jail for the maximum sentence and maximum fine that you would have given somebody else. So if your law says 20 years in state prison with a $250,000 fine for violating this gun law, guess what you get, Governor Newsom? 20 years, no good behavior. 250 grand's not nothing for you and your rich family. I get that. But 20 years in prison for you. You got a purty mouth. New York City. Eric Adams is he's cracking down on the illegal migrants. He's a former New York City police officer, so naturally he was disgusted when he saw that New York City police officer was beaten up by a group of migrants who were then released on no bail and tried to ditch the country. They did catch some of them, though. It's okay. They got some of them. But he decided to crack down. And he introduced a new program, proposed a new program, said this is how we're going to crack down on these illegal migrants, okay? First off, we're going to give all of you a debit card with $10,000 of taxpayer money on it. I'm not kidding. That's what they're doing. Has it ever been more clear, like I was talking about in the beginning of the show, that there is a war on Mr. and Mrs. America? Doesn't matter what your race, religion, none of that. Doesn't matter. Political affiliation. There is a war on you. There is a war on you. They are targeting us, we the people, the citizens. This isn't even, this is in your face laughing at us. This is outright mockery in our faces. $10,000. $10,000 for illegal migrants. So we used to call them illegal immigrants. Now we call them, or then we call them undocumented because illegal immigrants is offensive. Now it's migrants. And migrants is very, very quickly getting hijacked by the rational people as well. So it'll be interesting what they choose to call them next, because they're running out of terms. So here's what it says. The debit card program is the New York Post. Debit card program, if you read the actual contract, has the potential to become an open-ended multi-billion-dollar Bermuda Triangle of disappearing, untraceable cash used for any purpose. It will give migrants up to $10,000 each in taxpayer money with no ID check. I don't know how you could check an ID on someone without an ID. No restrictions and no fraud control. Bye-bye. Because people that cross the border illegally would never commit fraud, other than, the means of which they came here. I'll tell you, my mom actually got an email. Fun fact here. Got an email today sent to her, and I double-checked it because, you got to be careful with your parents. Your parents send you a weird email or text message they got. Check the sending number. My mom's not old, so she wouldn't fall, but just it was from a DHS.gov email address. Says they've received her the following I-129 petition for non-immigrant worker that had been filed under the Premium Processing Program H-1B. And then they give a receipt number, date it was received, and the petitioner, which was her. So an I-129 or an I-129 petition is where a citizen here can petition the federal government to get a temporary work visa for someone who is a non-resident, so they can come here temporarily and work. My mom didn't petition anybody for that. somebody plucked her name and her email off public record, which you don't think your name's out there, it is. Go to smartbackgroundchecks.com, Google yourself, then proceed to throw your phone in the dumpster. Smartbackgroundchecks.com, not a sponsor. Go check them out. It's free. All that for free. So somebody found her name, found her email address, and forged her signature and sent it off to the federal government. Now, she did what she had to do. If you get an email like this and you didn't petition for somebody, make sure you get in contact with them immediately, because if that person does get in and they overstay their visa or they commit a crime, God forbid, guess who that blows back on? So someone outright committed fraud in my mom's name to try to come into this country illegally. This is a very real thing. A very real thing that you are all going to have to deal with in the near future. This affects all of us. We've already broken down how it affects all of us. This is another level. Donald Trump Jr. got some white powder came in the mail. White powder, he opened it up. And it seems like it was okay. It was an unidentified white powder. Seemed like it was okay. I think it was meant for Hunter Biden. That's all I got for that one. All right, last up here. Before we do that, though, Friday. This Friday. What day is Friday? Is that March 1st? Is Friday March 1st? It is. Friday, March 1st, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, wherever you get your shows. We're going to be interviewing Dan Frey, F-R-E-I, running for Congress in Nebraska's 2nd District as a Republican, primarying the infamous Rhino. Not infamous in a good way like me. No. The infamous Rhino, Don Bacon. He's got a real shot to beat him. He's been endorsed by the Nebraska Republican Party. He's got the funding. Got the support, the grassroots support. And he almost, in 2014, beat Lee Terry. Almost. So that'll be interesting. Check that out. Dan Frey. This is a guy who's got a real chance to get a real principled conservative in office in a dangerous swing district. Bacon's dead in the water. Stands no chance, figuratively speaking, politically. Stands no chance. His base doesn't support him, and the Democrats hate him. He's done. He can't win. Dan Frey has a very good chance to win because Tony Vargas is a sleazeball dumbass. So tune in for that, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time this Friday, March 1st, wherever you get your shows. I don't know what's going on with Spotify, guys. I'm trying to get it figured out. I have had a million things going on, and then one of my fucking dogs dying did not help. It's just not. We're trying to figure it out. If you got a friend that listened on Spotify, let them know. We're working on getting it back, but they can literally listen to us on a ton of other free apps, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, or come over watch on Rumble. You can even listen to audio on Rumble, too. You can just minimize it and shut your phone off or shut the screen on your phone off and it'll play in the background like a podcast. So it's really cool. It's free. You don't have to pay for it like with YouTube. Okay, last up here. Florida. The state of Florida, who we like a lot of their policies. But the lawmakers in Florida passed a bill that would ban social media for anyone under the age of 16. This is Reuters. Florida's Republican-controlled legislature has passed legislation that would ban anyone under the age of 16 from social media platforms in a move that supporters have said would protect young people online or young people from online risks to their mental health. Okay. Now, I usually side with Ron DeSantis. I more often than not wind up on the conservative end of things when we're talking about these issues, especially with kids and the internet. But at some point, there's got to be a line where we tell the state, hey, stay the hell out. I'm the parent, not you. Remember, I understand. I appreciate what you try to do about the porn in the schools, the transing of the kids. I appreciate your work there. But at some point, you got to let people be parents. Don't hide behind the mental health thing. Don't do that. I agree it can be damaging to mental health. I think we absolutely deserve answers from Mark Zuckerberg, from Jack Dorsey, These, from Snapchat and some of these other social media companies, we absolutely deserve some answers. I would have no problem with lawsuits filed against these people on behalf of these kids. But at some point, I, as a parent, should be able to say, hey, I get to make the call about whether or not my 15-year-old has a Facebook account. That ain't your call. State of Florida, I'm sorry. That's not your call. Again, appreciate what you're doing. I know you think you're doing good by us here, but this is not the move. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Wrong idea. Just makes us look bad. And we'll get into another on the big show. There's another bad law that Republicans have decided to start pushing for. It's just a bad optic. Bad optic. Other battles to fight, much more important battles to fight, and this is another one that I don't even agree with. We'll get into that on Saturday on the big show, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. But at some point, we got to let people have control of their own kids. And I agree, there's got to be a line. There's got to be a line where the state has to step in, but I don't think your 15-year-old daughter having a Snapchat account would qualify. Now, if we want to talk about making it so that people have to present an ID to get into porn sites, then maybe that's fine. Maybe we do that. I could understand that going down that route. But we're talking about teenagers on social media. I agree. Not great for their mental health, but it's not the same as sticking them on hormones. It's not the same as chopping their dicks off. It's not the same as letting them smoke cigarettes and drink beer. Not the same thing. Not the same thing as showing them soft to hardcore porn in public school libraries. Not even close. This is where you lose me. This is where we continue as conservatives and rational people to shoot ourselves in the proverbial foot by doing shit like this that just reinforces the stereotype that we're out of touch, old white prudes. That's what this looks like. I mean, this sounds like the person that wrote this bill still calls computers machines. And you know what I'm talking about. You know what kind of people I'm talking about. Anyway, that's been our show. Shout out to our sponsors over at Blood of Tyrants. Head on over to drinkbloodofTyrants.com. Use the promo code BASED for 10% off your order at the checkout on either their Red Merlot Blood of Tyrants wine, their white Tears of Tyrants wine, or the Liquid Freedom Raspberry Energy drink. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, 0 fucks given. Again, that's www.drinkbloodofTyrants.com. Promo code BASED, BASED. Like the title of the show, going to save you 10% off your order at the checkout. That's been our show. We'll see you Friday for the interview with Dan Fry. Dan Fry Friday. I like it. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Sometimes we do interviews on Fridays, and we usually don't give you a lot of heads up. We just drop them. So stay tuned for those. Turn the notifications on, whatever app you listen to us on. We will see you guys Friday and then Saturday. Back-to-back shows. All right, that's all I got. Follow the socials. Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram. Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok. Caleb Salvatore on YouTube and Rumble. CalebSalvatore.com for all your merch and booking needs. All right, cheating on your taxes, not your spouse. And as always, stay based.